Inside the palace, they were taken to a room where they were told to wait. They huddled together, whispering quietly to each other. "What will happen to us?" Amaka asked, her eyes wide with fear. "I don't know," Ireti replied, trying to stay brave for her friends. Once upon a time, in the beautiful Ilumoye kingdom, there lived a young girl named Ireti. Ilumoye was a peaceful village filled with joy and riches. But for Ireti, being a girl in the kingdom was sometimes challenging. You see, in Ilumoye, only boys were allowed to become the king. However, Ireti's family was special. They were one of the five royal families who took turns being the rulers of the kingdom. Ireti was the only child of her parents. This made them worry a lot because, according to the kingdom's rules, a girl couldn't be crowned as a king. When the current king passed away, it was supposed to be Ireti's family's turn to take the throne. One day, Ireti's father fell ill and sadly, he didn't recover. The news of his passing spread quickly, not just in Ilumoye but to the neighboring kingdoms as well. Some of the kingdoms were much stronger and had more power than Ilumoye. Among these neighboring kingdoms was the Jago kingdom. They saw an opportunity when they heard that Ilumoye had no heir to the throne. Without wasting time, the Jago kingdom decided to attack Ilumoye and try to take over the kingdom. Ireti sat quietly in her room, looking out of the window at the beautiful gardens in her father's compound, unaware of the troubles brewing outside the kingdom's wall. Suddenly, there was a knock on her door. It was her mother, Aduni. "Ireti, my dear," Aduni said with a worried expression. "We need to talk." Ireti nodded and followed her mother to the sitting room. As they sat down, Aduni took Ireti's hand in hers. "My child, I have something important to tell you." Aduni began. "Your father, he is no longer with us. He has passed away." Ireti's eyes widened in shock and tears welled up in her eyes. She couldn't believe that her father was gone. "What will happen now, mother?" Ireti asked softly. Aduni sighed. "According to our tradition, it should have been your father's turn to become the king. But since he is no longer here, and you are a girl, the other royal families may contest our claim to the throne." Ireti's heart sank. She knew that being a girl meant she couldn't become the king, even though she was the only child of her parents. The villagers were farmers and craftsmen, and they lived simple, happy lives. But the war came to their valley. A great army marched through, laying waste to the land and burning the village to the ground. Some of the villagers fled, leaving behind their homes and everything they had ever known. They wandered off, searching for a new place to call home. The king of Ijago kingdom installed his son Jagoda to be the king of Ilumoye kingdom. Fortunately for Ireti, she and three other young girls, Amaka, Rola, and Remi, were not killed. They were captured and taken as slaves back to Ijago kingdom to serve the royal family in Ijago kingdom. As they arrived in Ijago kingdom, they were led through the bustling streets to the royal palace. The palace was grand and beautiful, with tall towers and colorful gardens. But to Ireti and her friends, it felt like a prison. Inside the palace, they were taken to a room where they were told to wait. They huddled together, whispering quietly to each other. "What will happen to us?" Amaka asked, her eyes wide with fear. "I don't know," Ireti replied, trying to stay brave for her friends. "But we must stay strong and look out for each other." The whole of Ilumoye was in chaos and unrest during this period, as all strong occupants who might be a threat to the king were eliminated by beheading them. Ireti became a slave in Ijago kingdom. She was subjected to various assaults. The palace guards would want to forcefully sleep with her for pleasure at times. Ireti was hopeless, as there was no one who could save her from the assaults she faced. One day, it was her turn to help the queen serve the king in the palace. She followed the queen to the king's chamber. It was there the king noticed her. The king stared at her with lustful eyes until she left the palace. Ireti was a beautiful girl. Apart from her natural endowment, she was a girl every man would love to marry as a wife. Ireti continued her work as a maid in the palace, cleaning dishes and sweeping floors. But despite her lowly position, Ireti was a beautiful and kind-hearted girl. One day, while she was cleaning, Ireti looked out and saw the king walking alone in the palace garden without his guards. As she watched, she saw the king trip and fall into a pond. Ireti rushed out of the palace and pulled the king out of the water. After Ireti rescued the king, he was grateful to her. He asked her name, and when she told him she was just a lowly maid, he was shocked. He said that she deserved better, and he ordered that she should be given a royal position in the palace. This gave Ireti the opportunity to be closer to the king, as the king loved her so much. The king and Ireti spent more time together. The king would often invite Ireti to eat with him in his private chambers. One day, the king asked Ireti to stay after dinner and talk with him. He told her that he had developed feelings for her and asked if she felt the same way. Ireti was shocked, but her answer to the king was not straight. She was still angry about what the king did to her village and kindreds. The king asked Ireti to marry him, and she agreed because she had no other option. It was a sin to object whatever the king demanded for. Therefore, Ireti became the fourth queen in the palace. Ireti agreed to marry King in order to take revenge of all he has done to his people and his father's kingdom. Although she was the king's favorite, the king loved her so much. This made the other queens jealous. The king was powerful that he had subdued many kingdoms. The king's power lies inside the calabash that was placed in the evil forest. Igbo Irumole is a forest full of doom. The evil forest was known as a forest that consumes both humans and animals irrespective of gender or power. That is for you to know how powerful the king was. Ireti has been told by her father while he was still alive about the evil forest in Ijago kingdom, which contains the power of the king. It was said that no one enters the forest and come out alive, but the same forest is the forest that can guarantee the freedom of Ilumoye kingdom and restore peace to the land. Ireti continued to live in the palace with crucial plans in her heart. One of the plans was to get the royal seal to enter the evil forest where the powerful calabash was placed and save her kingdom from the wicked king of Ijago kingdom. She tried severally, but her movement seemed suspicious to the guards, and she relaxed on her attempt to journey through this forest. The villagers had been told to stay away from the forest, as they believed it was full of spirits and danger. But one day, Queen Ireti was playing near the forest, and she wandered too close. Suddenly, she found herself inside the forest. surrounded by trees that seemed to stretch on forever. It was quiet, except for the faint rustling of leaves in the wind. She felt a shiver run down her spine, and she knew she was not alone. Fear gripped her. Out of the corner of her eye, she spotted a flash of movement. She turned to see a strange creature standing nearby. It had bright red eyes and dark scaly skin. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before. It was staring at her, unblinking. Suddenly, it let out a piercing shriek, and Queen Ireti felt her legs go weak with fear. But then, she noticed something else. The creature was holding something in its clawed hand. It was a small glowing orb, pulsing with energy. As Queen Ireti stared at the orb, she felt drawn to it. It seemed to be calling to her, beckoning her closer. She knew she should be afraid, but she couldn't resist. She took a step towards the creature, and the forest around her seemed to grow darker. The creature smiled a wicked smile, and it held out the orb towards her. Ireti reached out to take it, and as her fingers touched the orb, a jolt of energy surged through her body. Suddenly, she felt herself being pulled into the forest, deeper and deeper. Everything around her seemed to blur, and she felt as though she was floating. The trees and plants around her were replaced by swirling colors and shapes. The energy from the orb was filling her body, and she felt a sense of power she had never experienced before. Then suddenly, she felt herself being pulled back into the forest, and she found herself standing in front of the creature again. The creature was smiling, but it seemed different now. It looked more human, and its eyes were kinder. She was so afraid. Not long, the following day, the turbulence in the forest woke Queen Ireti. The spirit of her forefathers was with her as she continued her quest into the forest with fear. She encountered several tests in the forest. She was tested with her favorite meal, pounded yam and vegetable soup. She passed the test by choosing her ambition over food. The orb also tested her by offering her an everlasting position in the land of the spirit, but she rejected it because she wanted to restore the hope which her people lost. This impressed the king of the strange creatures. "You have passed the test," the creature said in a deep echoing voice. "You are worthy of the power in the calabash." Queen Ireti was stunned. She had no idea what the creature was talking about. But before she could ask any questions, the creature continued. "You have shown bravery and courage. You choose the freedom of your kingdom over your own pleasure, and we shall let you have the power in the calabash. The power with which you shall defeat your greatest rival, the king of a Jago kingdom. You are now a protector of the forest, and you must use your power to defend it from those who would seek to harm it, while you save your forefathers' kingdom as well." Queen Ireti was still reeling from the experience, but she knew that she had to accept her new role. As she walked, she saw the world around her with new eyes. She saw the suffering of the land caused by those who did not respect the balance of nature. She knew that it was her purpose to restore that balance and to protect the creatures of the forest. She walked for days, and as she did, she finally located the calabash, shining like a crystal. She moved towards the calabash and attempted to open it. She fell severally before regaining stamina. With the help of the orb, she was able to open the calabash and claimed the power therein. She became very powerful and strong. After this, she headed back home to face her husband, the powerful king of Ijago land. When she got back to Ijago kingdom, everyone was aware of her plight as the guards and warriors of the Ijago kingdom laid in ambush for her. They waged war against her, and with the help of the power she got from the calabash, she defeated them all and headed straight to the palace to face the king. The king was aware of her arrival, and he decided to brace himself up spiritually, humming some incantations and wearing his spiritual attire. Queen Ireti headed straight to the palace in order to face the king and take revenge on him. They were both full of magical powers, but there was one thing they could not agree on: who should rule Ilumoye kingdom. Queen Ireti believed that she was the rightful ruler, while the king of Ijago believed that he was the one who should be in charge of the kingdoms because of extreme powers. He was literally the most powerful king in those days. The disagreement between the king and the queen, Ireti, soon turned into a fierce rivalry. When she got to the palace, she killed all the palace guards and killed all the princes and princesses. The king got angry. They began to use their powers against each other, casting spells and using incantations to try to gain the upper hand. But the more they fought, the more the kingdom began to suffer. Crops withered, livestock died, and people began to fall ill. It was clear that something had to be done. The king must die for the two kingdoms to be in peace again, but he was too powerful to be subdued. Queen Ireti casted several spells and incantations, but all these had no effect on the king. The battle became very fierce. She had to lure the king away from the palace to the place where the callous deity, Orisha Odaju, was buried. Although the king had no idea about this deity, Queen Ireti learnt about this deity from her grandfather, one of the former kings of Ilumoye kingdom. The battle continued between them. The king was so powerful that he summoned the whirlwind to consume Queen Ireti. The wind came as commanded and attacked Queen Ireti. She fell to the ground, humming some powerful incantations. The king felt that was the end of it, not until Queen Ireti rose back to her feet. Queen Ireti summoned the callous deity, uttering powerful incantations. The deity came out of the group, holding a very big weapon in its hand. She directed the deity to face the powerful king, and with the help of the orb, the deity obeyed her command. The deity hit the powerful king with a weapon, and the king fell to the ground, uttering some incantations, but the attack was great effect on him as his powers failed him. He fell flat, and that was how Queen Ireti ended him. After this, Queen Ireti beheaded the king and traveled with the king's head down to Ilumoye, her father's kingdom. Queen Ireti held the wicked king's head in her hands as she journeyed back to her father's kingdom, Ilumoye. The people had suffered under the tyrant's rule for too long, and now it was time for change. As Queen Ireti entered Ilumoye holding the symbol of defeat and hope, the people gasped into astonishment. They couldn't believe their eyes. The cruel king's reign had come to an end. The newly installed king, who had colluded with the wicked ruler, saw Queen Ireti's arrival and the head of their oppressor. Fear gripped his heart, and without a second thought, he fled the palace, abandoning his throne. With the departure of the false king, the throne sat empty, waiting for someone worthy to claim it. But before anyone could step forward, Queen Ireti addressed the crowd. "People of Ilumoye," she began, her voice ringing clear and strong. The days of darkness are over. The time for rebuilding and renewal has come. Let us join together and restore our kingdom to its former glory. The people cheered, their spirits lifted by Queen Ireti's words. For too long, they had suffered under oppression, but now there was hope. In the days that followed, those who had been forced into exile during the tyrant's reign returned to Ilumoye. Families were reunited, and tears of joy flowed freely. Among those returning was Queen Ireti's mother, who had been separated from her daughter for far too long. As they embraced, the bond between them grew even stronger, a testament to the power of love and resilience. With the support of her people and her reunited family by her side, Queen Ireti set about rebuilding Ilumoye. Villages that had been destroyed were rebuilt. Fields that had lain fallow were cultivated once again, and hope blossomed like flowers in springtime. But amidst the rebuilding efforts, there was one more task that remained: finding a new ruler for Ilumoye. As the rightful heir to the throne, Queen Ireti knew that the responsibility rested on her shoulders. After much deliberation and consultation with her advisors, Queen Ireti made her decision. She would marry one of the young men from the village, Adisa, a kind and just soul who had shown great courage during the darkest days of Ilumoye's history. In a joyous ceremony attended by the entire kingdom, Queen Ireti and Adisa were married, and as they stood before their people, they pledged to rule with fairness and compassion, always putting the needs of the people above their own. With Adisa crowned as king and Queen Ireti as his queen, a new era dawned for Ilumoye. The days of tyranny were gone, replaced by a reign of peace and prosperity. As the sun set on the horizon, casting its golden rays over the newly restored kingdom, the people of Ilumoye knew that their future was bright, and they knew deep in their hearts that as long as Queen Ireti and King Adisa stood together, nothing could ever darken their skies again. The most important lesson about this story is that it teaches us about the dangers of greed and selfishness. The wicked king's desire to be the most powerful ruler led him down a path of destruction and despair. He cared only for himself, and in the end, he lost everything: his power, his kingdom, and even his life. Also, we learn that true strength comes not from power or wealth, but from kindness, compassion, and the willingness to stand up for what is right. We also learn that it is important to always treat others with respect and kindness, and to never let greed or selfishness cloud our judgment. We learned that no matter how dark the world may seem, there is always hope for a brighter tomorrow. But perhaps, most importantly, we learned that we all have the power to make a difference in the world, just like Queen Ireti did. So let us be inspired by her bravery and her goodness, and strive to make the world a better place for all who inhabit it. And so, my dear friends, let us remember the lessons of Queen Ireti's triumph, that goodness will always triumph over evil, and that kindness and compassion are the greatest powers of all. Let us all carry these lessons with us in our hearts as we journey through life, and may we always strive to be like Queen Ireti, brave, kind, and full of hope. And with that, my dear friends, our story comes to a close. But remember, the magic of storytelling lives on, waiting to whisk us away on new adventures, where the wonders of imaginations know no bounds. Goodbye for now, and may your dreams be filled with joy, wonder, an endless possibility. Thank you so much for watching. Please kindly comment, share, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting stories.